we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things.
Now let's talk about what those Democrat things actually are. As of midnight, the Trump administration has shut down the Council of Inspectors General. Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House. This is a Republican shutdown of government accountability. Those Democrat things that Trump wants to get rid of, they're the watchdogs designed to protect Americans, you, from government abuse. Siggy supports nearly 14,000 federal investigators whose job it is to root out waste, fraud, and corruption in the administration. Government accountability isn't a Democrat thing or a Republican thing. It's an American thing. Whether you voted for him or not, you should want watchdogs making sure your tax dollars aren't wasted and your government isn't abusing its power. And now the Trump administration is pushing the lie that inspectors general are corrupt and partisan. But Mark Greenblatt, a former Siggy chair, suggests they're being defunded because Siggy reviewed a Trump-appointed inspector general during his first term. They're being punished for doing their job. And here's how fast they moved. The Siggy website, ignet.gov, is already offline. The site that just yesterday was announcing training programs for government watchdogs now shows not found. Nearly 30 inspector general offices depend on Siggy to host their websites. The very platform citizens use to report government misconduct, gone overnight. Even Republican Senators Chuck Grassley and Susan Collins are calling for an immediate reversal. So when Trump talks about getting rid of Democrat things, this is what he means. Firing the watchdogs, dismantling accountability, and making sure no one is looking over his shoulder. And the question we should all be asking is, what are they planning to do that they don't want anyone to see?
Is it the White House's position that furloughed workers should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
Why do you say some federal workers should not get their back pay? Why do you say some?
Well, you're going to have to figure that out, okay? Ask the Democrats that question.
If you're watching this, the government shut down, so we're going to do a quick game of open or closed with federal agencies. Producer Kyle is going to shout out the agencies. I'm going to tell you if they're open or closed.
Social Security.
Open.
Medicare.
Open.
National parks.
Closed, but Utah wants to keep some of theirs open. It could be dangerous going to national parks because visitor services aren't going to be available, so think about it.
Smithsonian Museums and the Zoo.
Closed, but the animals will be taken care of.
IRS.
Open, but it weirdly shouldn't be because they're moving money around, but it's open.
USPS.
Open, not funded by annual appropriations.
Domestic military deployments.
Definitely still happening.
Immigration raids.
Also, definitely still happening.
Veterans healthcare.
Still happening.
EPA.
Closed.
State Department and passport services.
Open, but it could be a little slower.
Department of Labor.
Closed.
NIH and CDC.
Closed.
SNAP.
Open because they've got contingency funding, but if it's a long shutdown, it could get difficult.
Housing vouchers.
Open, again, because they've got contingency funding, but if it's a long shutdown, could get difficult.
Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Totally closed.
Federal research activities.
Definitely closed.
Veterans job training.
Also closed.
Washington Post shutdown reporting.
Definitely open. I will not be sleeping, but keep following.
Government is shut down, but I want you to think about three numbers: 4, 24, and 50. 4 million people are about to lose healthcare coverage altogether. 24 million people who use the ACA will see their cost go up. And nearly 50% of all small businesses and employees get their healthcare through the ACA, including a quarter of American farmers. You see, every time there's a crisis, Trump and the Republicans use it to grab more power and pit us against each other. This time, they've shut down the government because Democrats won't let them steal healthcare, fire civil servants, and make us give up on democracy. But what can we do? Be loud and remind everyone who did this. Share your story. They're lying. Tell the truth. Be present and help our neighbors when money gets tight. Mutual aid matters. Go to food banks, make donations, do whatever you can. And be persistent. Refuse to accept that we've already lost. Resistance works. Because here's another number, 10. There are 10 steps to freedom and power. Let's take them.
over the last year, TSA found over 7,000 guns in airport screening. 94% of them were loaded. These are the people who were not paying during the shutdown. Think about it.
The U.S. government shutdown is now on day 7, and it's having ripple effects throughout the country. The Federal Aviation Administration is sounding the alarm over staffing shortages, with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying there's been an uptick of workers calling in sick. A control tower at the Hollywood Burbank Airport in California closed due to staffing issues. It is worth mentioning that while traffic controllers are essential workers and are required to show up to work during the shutdown, they're currently doing so without pay. Eventually, they'll receive back pay, but not until the government reopens. On Monday, the Senate rejected 2 funding bills. The Republican proposal failed by a final vote of 52 to 42, while the Democratic one 45 to 55. The approval of a funding measure requires a total of 60 votes, and while Republicans have a majority in the Senate, they'll still need help from a few Democrats to reach the magic number for passage. Democrats remain firm on their demands to extend several subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. Republican President Donald Trump said he is willing to work with Democrats on healthcare. However, he emphasized that the Senate must first pass a clean funding measure to reopen the government before moving forward with any policy negotiations. Let's just say, for the sake of hopefulness, a deal is struck and the government reopens. Here are 3 issues you could still face. Number 1, there will most definitely be a backlog of work for several agencies, so things like government permits, federal grants, and visas will likely take longer than expected to be approved as workers that were deemed non-essential catch up on their duties. Number 2, small businesses in cities with large federal workforces could still feel the impact for weeks after the shutdown ends, as many government workers wait to be reimbursed and regain the confidence to spend again. And number 3, national parks may take weeks to clean up and be repaired due to the length of the closure. What's clear, though, is that the sooner the government reopens, the smaller the damage. Reporting for Newsweek from Washington, I'm Leonardo Feldman.
So what the Trump administration is doing right now with this shutdown threat isn't really about a budget. It's about control. And once you understand the psychology behind it, you can see exactly how they're trying to play the American people. Now, normally, right, when the government shuts down, workers are furloughed. They take a pause and then they come back once the shutdown ends. But this time, Trump's team is saying, no, no, no. Permanent firings. That's not a plan to save money. That's intimidation. It's a fear tactic because when people are scared of losing their jobs, they're less likely to speak up. They're less likely to push back. They're less likely to resist. That's how you control a workforce without passing a single law. Now, pay attention to this part. The Office of Management and Budget told agencies to cut jobs that don't, quote, align with Trump's agenda. That has nothing to do with whether the jobs actually helps Americans. It's about whether it benefits him. That's authoritarian psychology 101. It's saying your survival depends on the loyalty to one man instead of service to the country. And here's the bigger game. By threatening whole programs like education and healthcare and housing, even scientific research, Trump positions himself as the one who decides if you get to eat, if you get to keep your healthcare, if your kids get an education. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. When people start to feel like they have no power to change things, they stop trying. They stop fighting back. And that's exactly what leaders like this want. At the same time, he's still shouting, America first. But think about it. If you're cutting education for kids, health care for families, housing support for struggling communities, that is not America's first. That is Trump first. That's gaslighting. That's saying one thing while doing the opposite and hoping you're too confused to call it out. And at the heart of all of this is a narcissist playbook. Create a crisis, break the system, scare the people, and claim you're the only one who can fix it. It's chaos by design. And the cost doesn't fall on him or his billionaire friends. It falls on you, your job, your family, and your future. So here's the real lesson. Don't just watch the politics, watch the psychology. Every move is designed to make you afraid, to make you dependent, and to make you quiet. But once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And once you see it, you can call it what it is. Because at the end of the day, folks, if the president is willing to sacrifice your paycheck, your health care, and your child's education just to protect his own power, we have to ask ourselves, how much longer are we going to sit quiet and let fear control us? By holding jobs and healthcare and housing programs hostage, Trump positions himself like the provider, like the father figure who decides if you eat, if you have healthcare, if you keep a roof over your head.
There's too many people that don't understand why the government is shut down right now, so I'm going to try to make this easy. A few months back, they passed something called the Big Beautiful Bill. The Big Beautiful Bill cut $1 trillion worth of Medicaid funding over the next 10 years. And they're saving that $1 trillion in a couple of different ways. First, they introduce work requirements for able-bodied citizens. This means if you can't prove that you're disabled, then you're required to work to receive Medicaid. You have to prove that you've either worked or volunteered or studied for a minimum of 80 hours a month. That's only 20 hours a week. Second, they made it to where you have to verify your qualification every 6 months. Before the Big Beautiful Bill, people could apply for Medicaid and then just remain on it. But now people are required to re-qualify every 6 months, proving that they put in that time at work or volunteering or studying. But if they'd rather just sit at home and be lazy rather than being a productive member of society while they're perfectly capable of being a productive member of society, then they'll lose their benefits. And that's how it saves the government money for healthcare to be used towards people that actually need it. So that's the first way that the Big Beautiful Bill is working towards saving $1 trillion over the next 10 years. The second way is a little more difficult to explain, and it involves the hospital, the state, and the federal government. But here's a summary of how it works. A patient goes to the hospital, receives their services, and then pays their bill. When the patient pays that bill, they're not only paying the bill, but they're also paying a tax. That tax goes to the state, and the state puts it in a Medicaid fund. Then the federal government matches whatever money was put into that state's Medicaid fund. Then all of the money that was put into that Medicaid fund goes towards funding people who are approved for Medicaid. But in the Big Beautiful Bill, they reduced the amount of money that the federal government is willing to put in the state's funds. Since there's less money coming out of the funds because they've eliminated the people abusing the system, they shouldn't have to put as much into the funds. And since they don't have to put as much into the funds, they don't have to tax the American population as much. But what does any of this have to do with illegal immigrants? See, the Democrats will tell you that illegal immigrants do not qualify for Medicaid in the first place, therefore this has nothing to do with them. However, they conveniently leave out one fact. While it is true that if somebody were to just walk across the border and apply for Medicaid, they would be denied, it's also true that if somebody walked across the border, got caught by an ICE agent, went to a court hearing, was put on parole, and then released back into our society, those people are no longer classified as illegal immigrants, but now they're classified as parolees. And those parolees do qualify for Medicaid. And in just 4 years under the Biden administration, 2.8 million illegal immigrants were put onto that parole status. The Big Beautiful Bill also prevents that. So the next time you see a Democrat telling you that the Big Beautiful Bill left millions of people without Medicaid, just keep in mind that those millions of people were either able-bodied American citizens who were abusing the system or people that came here illegally from other countries. And by removing those millions of people and their millions of medical bills, the government is now saving $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years, so that money can go towards American citizens who need the assistance. And the government is shut down right now because the Democrats want to reverse all of that. They want to reinstate that $1.5 trillion worth of spending. But since Donald Trump and the Republicans refuse to do so, because we refuse to pay for the Medicaid of able-bodied American citizens, because we refuse to pay for the Medicaid of somebody who came here illegally and went to court once, the Democrats are refusing to vote for the continuing resolution. Because we won't pay to reinstate the fraud, the Democrats refuse to vote to pay our military men and women. They refuse to vote to pay our federal employees. And honestly, we have way too many federal employees to begin with, so this is another opportunity to save more money. And since the Democrats shut the government down, Donald Trump is now entertaining the idea of terminating some of those federal employees to save more money. as well as terminating certain federally funded organizations that the Democrats appreciate. Democrats say you don't pay for our fraud, we won't pay to fund the government. Trump says if you won't fund the government, then we won't fund your Democrat programs. And all of that leaves you and me sitting back watching quietly, wondering who's going to cave in first.
We have some major news right now. Donald Trump just confirmed that some federal workers will likely not receive back pay during the government shutdown. He was asked during a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney from Canada just moments ago in the Oval Office, essentially whether or not the White House was planning on giving all furloughed federal employees back pay. That is the law. That's what's been happening for many years now. And he said, well, it depends. Some will, some won't. And he was asked to elaborate, and he didn't really go into it, but what it seems like, those who support him would get back pay. Those who don't support him won't get back pay and may get fired. That, folks, is obviously illegal. And the wording of the law that this is all based on has always confirmed that furloughed federal workers who literally are not working, thanks to no fault of their own, get back pay after the government shutdown ends. Seemingly now, this White House doesn't want that, at least not for those who don't support the president. Spread the word because this is important right now. Follow along for more. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my Substack, link in bio.
Media just reported that Donald Trump may not pay the 750,000 furloughed workers any back pay in the event the government reopens. These are people who inspect your job sites to make sure it's safe. These are people who train your air traffic controllers. Why is he doing this? Well, there was a law in 2019 that he signed that entitled people to back pay in the event of a shutdown. He claims that there is also an amendment that gives him the right to revoke that. He's doing this for two main reasons. One, he wants to continue to push the Democrats into a corner to agree to reopen the government. That would cause people to see their healthcare premiums on November 1st, tens of millions of people, for it to go up 100% or more, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. And second, and just as badly, he is trying to demoralize the federal government to have people quit because he doesn't believe in government that helps people. These are people who work at your national parks. These are the people who take on companies to make sure that you get the wages you deserve. That's not something Donald Trump is interested. He wants to make sure to just push his own agenda every day to remove any kind of government regulation, especially the kind that helps people. And we can't stand for it.
These are the 5 best stocks to own while the government is shut down. First on the list, we have Path. Now, if you don't know about this stock, do some research. This is going to be a huge AI software stock, and I believe this can get back to all-time highs with due time, obviously. Next on the list, we have a cult stock, which is Oscar. Now, I know we're getting into the stocks that, are not many people know about. They're small caps, but this is the perfect season for this, okay? I'm telling you, Oscar looks amazing. I got a price target to 50 plus. Next on the list, we have one that a lot of people are talking about recently, Celsius. Amazing setup. I believe this goes much higher. Next on the list, we have my baby SMCI. I think this has the potential to do what it did back in 2023, 2022-ish. I don't know if some of you guys remember, or 2024, one of the years, but this was going absolutely bananas. I don't think it's done at all, and this has massive partnerships, okay? And then we got my next baby, Riot, and we know what this is about to do, okay? This has been a stock that we've been talking about since it was $9, $10. I firmly believe this stock will put up a lot of numbers. It got updated a lot, or upgraded a lot by JP Morgan and Citibank as well just recently. This is gonna go crazy. And then just a little bonus play, AMD. Okay, it's sitting in something amazing right now. Out of this consolidation, this is gonna go to all-time highs. Yeah, 220, 240. It's gonna go crazy, okay?
Here are 3 things to help you get through spiritually while we are in this government shutdown. Number 1 is to protect your peace. We know that the news and social media is going to run with this 24/7, but at some point you may need to turn that off to protect your peace. Guard your mind and guard your heart. Number 2 is to worship. I know it sounds crazy, but it confuses the enemy. You have every reason to be depressed, anxious, and sad, but when you put on a worship song, when you give God praise, it confuses the enemy and it will lift you up out of whatever mood you are falling down into. And number 3 is to stay in connection with God. Continue to pray and remember his scriptures. God knows the plans. Remember, the government will also be upon his shoulders. And remember, it's news to us, but it's not news to God. I'll be going live also this evening. Link is right there in my bio and on the screen for how you can join the live, where I will be talking specifically to those affected by the shutdown. Stay encouraged. God's got us, y'all.